The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here's your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Yeah, the gang's all here, in a manner of speaking. We'll go through the whole process here in just a couple of moments. First things first, as we get into this edition of the show, Matt will be by phone, producer John on CRN Live on YouTube. I'll be in studio. Details on how you wreck your racer before the race starts. Does Spire have an official response to the Joe Gibbs Racing Chris Gabehart lawsuit? Are all things good, for example, between McLaren and Alex Palou now? Christian Horner's path back to F1 might be blocked, but by who? And after getting on the track for the very first time yesterday, what do the Indycar drivers think of the brand new course that will make up the Java Grand Prix of Arlington? All those questions and many more will be answered on this edition of CRN next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Well, let's get into this whole thing here and kind of explain couple of things, maybe. Let's talk about the gentleman that is sitting on the phone right now. His name is Matt Nicholson. Why is he on the phone? Matt, why are you on the phone? You got me there, Matt?
I think I got you.
Okay. So why are we by phone this weekend?
Well, in the good old, I guess you could say, the tradition of health issues that I've been having since last July, it seems. I've been dealing with a pretty severe, as my doctor says, a super virus. This is gastro-related, and it has been pretty brutal this week. So I was not going to take any chances and run the risk of you catching this mess that I've got. So I'm running remote this week.
And I do appreciate that very much. And, of course, we got our thoughts and our prayers out to you as far as a quick recovery. Hopefully we'll have you back in studio next week.
I should be good. I should be good to go next week.
Sounds like a plan. All right, let's get into it here. Busy race weekend. Not as busy as a couple of weeks ago, but it was still a busy weekend. Things got rolling out in Phoenix. Indycar racing the oval for the first time since 2018. And for those there at the time, it might have seemed a bit like deja vu because here's the thing. It wasn't a done deal. I mean, David Malukas claimed the pole. You actually were of the opinion he was probably going to turn around and win it. And he looked dominant enough to be able to overcome pretty much anything except his Team Penske teammate who has proven he knows how to race ovals. Joseph Newgarden, getting around Kyle Kirkwood with 7 to go, held the lead to the finish, relegating Kirkwood to second place. Malukas finishing third, Pato O'Ward fourth, Marcus Armstrong fifth, Alexander Rossi, Scott Dixon, Scott McLaughlin, Graham Rahal, and Kiffin Simpson made out the top 10. In kind of looking at this whole situation, what was your first thought when it came to what happened to Malukas? Because I mean, granted, we say that Joseph Newgarden won, but it really did seem like Malukas' race to lose.
Yeah, for a while it did there. But I think on the pit cycles and the pit strategy that was going through on that last round of stops, that Newgarden's bunch just got him out just a little bit quicker. And one, they got him out a little bit quicker time-wise. But two, they were able to stretch the run just a little bit longer to give him that a little bit of opportunity for fresher tires, and I think that's what helped him. But it definitely wasn't from lack of effort from Malukas because he was in prime position in my opinion.
I agree. Newgarden takes over the points lead with the win. He's got 78. Kyle Kirkwood at 73. Scott McLaughlin third with 66. Pato O'Ward with 63 and 59 for Alex Palou. Dennis Hauger's got the early rookie points lead with 39. Caio Collet with 24, 17 for Mick Schumacher, and Chevrolet with an early 167 lead over Honda in the manufacturer's title. Again, very, very early in that run, only 2 races in. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Series then took over Phoenix Raceway, came down to the final restart with 11 to go. That was between Jesse Love and Justin Allgaier. Allgaier getting the jump, bested the driver who actually led the most laps on the evening to get the win. With the win, Allgaier takes over the points lead, 184 to Love's 181. Austin Hill at 179, so very, very close at the top. Carson Kvapil not too far behind at 146. Sheldon Creed at 143. Sammy Smith, 132, 119 for Rajah Caruth. Corey Day up at 118. Sam Mayer with 110. Brandon Jones has 95 and 94 points for Jeb Burton, who has the final chase slot at this time. Anything stand out to you from that O'Reilly Auto Parts Series?
Really, to me, the only thing that stands out from the race and really up to this point in the season so far is Carson Kvapil is knocking on the door really, really hard, and you can tell that Rodney Childers has made a huge difference on that one car.
Agreed. It's going to be an interesting season to see how this all bears out, because here's the thing. We're past that beginning part of the year where Richard Childress racing cars really tend to seem to take control, and now everybody else, it's wide open at this point in time. And, you know, whether or not it's going to be a situation where Justin Allgaier just kind of cruises along like he did a couple of years ago and claims the championship, or whether it's somebody else, it's going to be interesting to watch. Number... Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I said, yeah, it will be.
Yeah, it is. And that's kind of the fun part about it, because if you... I mean, yes, we make predictions, But if we can predict how the season is going to go and get it right, what's the fun in that? It becomes a little bit less fun, if you ask me. The fun part is the prediction of it and to see if it comes true. But if it actually came out the way that I said it did, yeah, I would look like some sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, some soothsayer. But at the same time, how exciting does that become for me?
Yeah, I agree.
Race number 1 of the 2026 F1 season got underway last weekend. New era got underway poorly for Oscar Piastri. Lost control of the car as the field headed out from the pits and onto the course to get set up. He never even started the race. Then through the race, several cars had problems that ended days as well. We're going to get back to the Oscar Piastri thing in a moment because we got a pretty graphic picture that's going to be coming up here in just a bit once we get into the news. But let's get back out front. The Mercedes of George Russell on the pole. Late in the race, he was swapping the lead back and forth with the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. Then Isaac Hadjar had some trouble with his Red Bull, bringing out a virtual safety car, and Mercedes drivers came in for tires. Ferrari gambled theirs were going to hold out. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Russell and his young teammate Kimi Antonelli came back out on the track behind the Ferrari pair, who had another chance when the Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas failed. The Ferraris chose yet again to stay out on the older tires. That was the opening that Russell needed to use his fresher tires, got around Hamilton. Then Leclerc got the season-opening win, bringing his teammate along with him in second. So here's your final top 10. George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton. This is going to sound familiar in a minute. Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Ollie Behrman, rookie Arvid Lindblad with points in his first ever F1 race. Gabriel Bortoleto and Pierre Gasly fill out the top 10. Driver points pretty much mirror the top 10. We'll wait there until after this weekend. Then you got Constructors' Cup. It's a little different because it combines the points for the two cars for each team. Mercedes with 43, 27 Ferrari, McLaren 10, Red Bull 8, Haas F1 with 6. 4 for Racing Bulls. Audi gets 2, 1 for Alpine, and without a point after race number 1, the trio in alphabetical order of Aston Martin, Cadillac, and Williams. I would say 2 things kind of stand out to me here. First of all, based upon that and what we saw last night, which we're going to get to in a minute, Mercedes is out to a stronger start of the year than what I thought, and Cadillac is stumbling over their own 2 feet more than I figured they would.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect Cadillac to be 100% perfect right out of the gate, which I don't think nobody did.
No.
But with the 2 upgrades I've seen, they had a list of upgrades that were released for China this weekend. And I think Cadillac and a couple of other teams were the only ones to implement 2 upgrades already for the weekend. So we'll see what they do, which I haven't seen anything on the sprint or qualifying or practice or anything like that because I've been disconnected from the world this week just about it. But I think probably after FP2 and FP3 and seeing all that, you'll probably have a good idea or a better idea of what they're going to look like and how they're going to stand this week.
Yeah, I agree. That brings us down to Florida, where the NHRA got their 75th season underway. The Gator Nationals, Top Fuel, Josh Hart taking on Doug Kalitta in the finals. Kalitta off the light first, but Hart powers by, gets the win, 3.733 ET, 337.83 miles per hour. This is his 3rd win of his career, 2 of those coming at the Gator Nationals. Alexis DeJoria facing off against Chad Green in the finals of Funny Car. Green had the better reaction time. DeJoria loses traction, so Green gets the win, 3.959 ET, 329.91 miles per hour. Like Green, like Hart, I should say, Green now has 3 national event wins, and 2 of those have come at the Gator Nationals. Pro Stock Car, Greg Anderson making it to the finals against Matt Hartford. Anderson gets off the light quicker, but then it's Hartford's race. He's passed Anderson by the 100-foot mark. 6.530 ET, 210.41 miles per hour for the win. We're starting to see Pro Stock Car get quicker. We were talking about this last week. Top Fuel, Funny Car, specifically Top Fuel, starting to really get to the point where 340 probably not going to be that big eye-popping number that it once was. It still kind of is, but we're edging so close to it now. We're starting to get used to the numbers in that area. Now we're starting to see Pro Stock car get regularly 210s, 215 shouldn't be that far away.
I would agree with that. I would say they're cracking 213 by the end of the year.
I think that's a good
not
bet.
215. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a good bet. Then there's Pro Stock Motorcycle. Speaking of setting marks, Richard Gadsden taking on John Hall in the finals. Gadsden much quicker off the light, no problem claiming the win. 6.753 ET, 200.05 miles per hour. Gets his 5th career win, first in the Gator Nationals. This is another situation where it was just a couple of years ago, really, that they started the 200 mile per hour club in Pro Stock Motorcycle. I think it's still going to be a little bit, but obviously the mark is 205 miles per hour for them. I can't imagine it's going to be many more years before they get to the point where we're going to start to edge up towards that pretty quick.
I would say when it comes to threshold numbers for speed brackets for each respective division, personally, I would say the two closest ones to a certain threshold is Top Fuel and Pro Stock Motorcycle.
Okay, I like it. Points after one show. Top Fuel, Josh Hart leads 122 points, trailed by Kalita, who's 26 back. Antron Brown, 46 back. Maddie Gordon, we're going to talk about her in a little while. She's 4th after race number 1 of her Top Fuel career, 48 points behind. Leah Pruitt, 65 down. Chad Green, 22 up over Alexis DeJoria and Funny Car. J.R. Todd, 33 back. 44 back is Jordan Vandergrift. Matt Hagan, 56 from the lead. Pro Stock car, Matt Hartford leads by 33 over Greg Anderson. 51 back, Dallas Glenn. Erica Enders, E-N-D-E-R-S. Yeah, Enders is 53 behind, and now 60 down, Cody Coughlin. And Pro Stock Motorcycle, Richard Gadsden, 30 up over John Hall. Then Clayton Howie, a name we're not overly familiar with, but he's only 50 back. Steve Johnson from the Birmingham area, 51 down, and Matt Smith is 5th, 60 behind. And that brings us back out to Phoenix, where the Cup Series wrapped up the busy weekend. We had 2 questions. First up, does Team Penske continue their dominance of the track, or is Tyler Reddick going to make history and go 4 for 4 to start the year? Team Penske was actually the answer, but it wasn't without hurdles. Tire problems caused him, specifically Ryan Blaney, to drop back and have to pass a bunch of cars to get back up towards the front. But the 12 car had what it took. Ryan Blaney ended up passing throughout the course of the afternoon under green 49 cars. And that's not, you say, well, that's not that big of a deal. On that track in Phoenix, that is a big deal, isn't it?
Yes, that's an extremely big deal.
Claimed the lead with 10 laps to go, went on to his 18th win in Cup competition in his career so far. Blaney chalked it up to, quote, just perseverance. That can't be it, can it?
I'm going to say yes, perseverance, because patience and perseverance is what it takes at Phoenix.
Yeah, and I get that, but I mean, he's got to understand here that he's dodging some stuff. He wasn't without his own tire problems, so it's not only the car and the driver behind the wheel. You got to give a lot of credit to that crew, too.
True. That is true.
With the win, here's the thing. Roger, the captain, Penske, he gets the wins in both the IndyCar and the Cup Series on the weekend. How thrilled are you? If you're in the captain's shoes, how thrilled are you in this case?
I'm pretty thrilled because I'm exceptionally thrilled because pretty sure that he wasn't able to sweep Indianapolis in the same fashion.
No, that's for sure. So this, I'm not necessarily going to say it's the next best thing to it, but it certainly doesn't hurt to be able to say I've got the 2 major wins on the weekend at any given track. Forget where it is. Blaney ends up besting Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin in a Toyota-dominated top 10. Second half of that, Bubba Wallace in 6th. William Byron, then Tyler Reddick. So he did finish inside the top 10 in that fourth race, but he wasn't able to do any better than eighth. Michael McDowell and Eric Jones round out the top 10. Reddick holding a significant points lead. I know, we're all surprised by that. Not. 225 to 165 over Blaney. Bubba Wallace in third now with 153, 128 for Chase Elliott. Shane Van Gisbergen still sits fifth with 116. Let's see if he's the biggest surprise in the top 16, because that's how many make the chase. We start off with 113 points. That's a flat-footed tie between Christopher Bell and Joey Logano. Got another tie at 111 between Michael McDowell and Chris Buescher. Kyle Larson's 10th with 109, 11 through 16. William Byron at 108. Denny Hamlin 107, 104 for A.J. Allmendinger. Carson Hocevar has 103. Ty Gibbs 101. Brad Keselowski is in just barely at 100 points. Who's the biggest surprise so far early this year? Is it the runaway run for Tyler Reddick? Is it SVG, or is it somebody else?
I'm gonna say the surprise is not Tyler Reddick. I'm not terribly surprised at Shane Van Gisbergen. I think the surprise sitting in the top 16 currently right now is A.J. Allmendinger.
Okay, and I kind of see where you're going, but if I was going to pick one, I might actually go with the guy who's just barely inside, and that's Brad Keselowski. He has overcome a lot. 2 super speedway races, Daytona, Atlanta, the rigors of the heat and the broken leg at Coda, and now comes out of Phoenix as well, all with a broken leg that is nowhere near 100%, and he's still inside the top 16.
Yeah, I could agree with you on that one too.
And then I would look at, obviously, a myriad of other drivers that are outside the top 16. And the biggest surprise, I think, has to be the fact that Chase Briscoe is having such bad luck. Because what we saw from that team last year, they had, half a dozen poles. They claimed wins throughout the course of the year, especially in the second half of the year when things started to really kind of gel between Briscoe and his crew chief, James Smalls. To have the bad luck that they've had to start off this year has to be eye-opening, doesn't it?
I think some of the bad luck that JGR has had overall is eye-opening. Not everybody, some of it.
Yeah.
But for Briscoe, yes, I would agree.
I mean, I say it. Can it? I'll ask the question. I don't think it can, but I'll go ahead and ask you the question. This can't keep up, can it? I mean, sooner or later, as much speed as that 19 car has, something's got to get to the point where it just comes together and they can start reeling off a string of top 10s, if not wins.
Oh, yeah, they'll. If he doesn't start ringing off something this weekend, and if something just bad, a freak accident happens to him or something this weekend, or a freak parts failure out of nowhere or whatever. If it doesn't happen this weekend and he gets back on track, I'm pretty sure he will definitely be back on next weekend, because Darlington women next weekend, and he's very good at Darlington. And that 19 car is very good there.
Yeah, that's true. And usually, I'll just say it that way, usually Joe Gibbs Racing can bring pretty good things out to a place like a Las Vegas too. So we shall see.
Yeah.
All right, let's take our first break here. When we come back, we'll set up this weekend, because actually this weekend's schedule began last night in China with Formula One. They ran their first sprint race of the year. Then we'll fill out the rest of it, and we'll go back and we'll talk about that situation that I mentioned with Oscar Piastri, because you want to talk about a really, really bad way to start off the year in a year that you were thinking you might actually claim a title. Ugh.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
We are back here, still kind of going through the race recap, specifically now the schedule part, because this weekend started out last night. Formula One is in China. First of 6 sprint races took place last night, our time, U.S. time. And it was kind of interesting, Matt. I actually got home. I host, if you don't know, in the Birmingham area, I host a music trivia game on Friday nights. Goes from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. And by the time I got back home, I realized, oh, wait a minute, the sprint race is about to start. It's only 19 laps. Okay, I'll sacrifice a little bit of sleep. I watched the sprint race and got really shocked when the Mercedes of Kimi Antonelli just absolutely bogged down at the start, and he just got blown by about 8 different drivers. And you know, we see bad starts from time to time, but it's pretty unusual at this level to see a start that bad, truth be told. What in the world might have happened? You know, was he starting off in the wrong gear? What?
It was either that or he was he released the clutch too quick.
Okay.
And if you release the clutch too fast and you dump that clutch too fast, it will do that same thing too.
Okay. So either way, whatever it was, 19 laps gives you very little time to be able to do it, and it did allow Lewis Hamilton, for example, to screen by. And it started to become a battle between 3 cars, the Mercedes of George Russell and the pair of Ferraris, because Russell claimed the pole. Hamilton actually grabbed the lead pretty quickly. He and Russell started to trade it off a couple of times before Russell was able to get out for good. Hamilton's tires kind of started to give out a little bit. Weather remarkably cool in China, track temperature cool as well, and for whatever the purpose, if you had soft tires, you weren't really, you had to make hay within the first 2 or 3 laps of it. Otherwise, they degraded pretty quick, and the mediums weren't holding out as well either. If you had the foresight to choose hard tires on a cold surface seems wrong, but in this case it worked. Why?
Without having to go into too much technical talk, the soft tires on a, I'll give you a comparison here. Soft tires on a colder surface, the grip level would be significantly higher.
Okay.
Therefore, causing the tires to give up quicker.
So same for the mediums?
Kind of a little bit same for the mediums, but
okay.
when the when the hard tires get built up and they get the heat in them, they don't give enough as quick. The heat will last a little bit longer, because I think on those harder tires, the heat cycle starts to come in well around lap 10 versus the softer compound. They come in around lap 3.
Okay.
It's how they come in and how they build up. So colder surfaces, you definitely would want to use the harder tires to where that way you're not having to worry about, in F1 terms, you're not having to one stop and 19 lap race.
Right. And the funny thing was, is we actually did see pit stops because of a situation where I believe it was the Audi of Nico Hülkenberg had a problem, and it brought out a safety car. And we saw a few teams come down and grab tires, which, again, in a sprint race, kind of unusual, but hey, so it goes. Hamilton's teammate even was able to take advantage of Hamilton's use of his tires. Russell gets the win, Leclerc second, Hamilton third, Lando Norris fourth. Kimi Antonelli recovered. He actually crossed the line in third, but had to suffer a 10-second penalty from something he did earlier on in the race, so that relegated him back to fifth. Oscar Piastri sixth, Liam Lawson seventh, and Ollie Behrman eighth, last driver to claim points in the sprint. Only the top 8 do. That's why we stopped there. So here's the situation after that. Later today, we get back into racing out in Las Vegas. O'Reilly Auto Parts Series going to be running the Liuna. It's a 200-lap race, going to air on the CW network and PRN radio. Starts 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Sunday begins very early with Formula One running the Heineken Chinese Grand Prix on the 3.2-mile-long, 16-turn Shanghai International Circuit. Going to air here in the United States on Apple Plus starting at 3 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Central Time. Sorry, F1, I'm not going to be awake for that. I plan on being asleep during that time. Qualifying took place after the sprint race. Kimi Antonelli turned around, grabbed that momentum, and just kept rolling with it. He becomes the answer to the trivia question now of who is the youngest driver to claim a Formula One pole. Antonelli beats the previous record set by Max Verstappen. As it turns out, Mercedes locks out the front row with George Russell in second place. You've got kind of the rest of the starting lineup.
Yeah, as you said there, it's a Mercedes front row lockout. Ferrari locks out row 2 with Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. McLaren locks out row 3 with Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris.
Welcome to your 3 teams that are going to battle it out for the title this
year. Yep. Pierre Gasly slots in P7. Verstappen is in P8. Isaac Hadjar is in P9. Oliver Behrman rounds out the top 10. You got Nico Hulkenberg 11th, Franco Colapinto 12th, Esteban Ocon 13th.
I heard somewhere that Esteban Ocon was on a run that might have gotten him into Q3, but it was an untimely yellow that showed up, and he had to back off the accelerator.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. Liam Lawson, P14, Arvid Lindblad, P15, Gabriel Bortoleto is in 16th, Carlos Sainz 17th, Alex Albon 18th, Fernando Alonso 19th, Valtteri Bottas 20th, Lance Stroll 21st, and Sergio Perez starting shotgun.
So Cadillac Twins 20th and 22nd. They've got more work to do than what we even initially thought. And we were talking about how last week they brought an update to the first race of the season. So they've got a lot of work to do over there in Cadillac land.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is going on, but Perez is a second and a half off of Valtteri Bottas.
Ouch. Man, they got work to do. Then we turn around and go to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. IndyCar Series going to run the Java House Grand Prix of Arlington. The homes of the Dallas Cowboys, Texas Rangers will be used as backdrops. It's a 2.73-mile-long, 14-turn course. You'll be able to watch the race on Fox. You'll hear it on IRN radio. Starts 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. As we always kind of do, we get new listeners all the time. The start times that I give, that's race coverage start time. That is not pre-race because radio and TV tend to be very different on that. And we'll wrap up the racing weekend amongst the series that we cover on a regular basis with the Cup Series at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, running the Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube. Fox Sports 1. Hang on. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Fox Sports 1 has the TV side. MRN Radio has the audio side. 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. So 11:30 a.m. Central Time start for IndyCar. 3 p.m. Central Time start for the Cup Series. But yet they still put it on Fox Sports 1. Fox has decided to go with the Bassmaster Classic and local paid programming instead of the Cup Series.
Sounds like something they could go on FS2, if you ask me.
Yeah, somebody at Fox. You know, and I say this because for those of you that know producer John and or myself, you know we've got a little bit of TV experience and a lot of radio experience and some programming experience. Somebody, for the love of God, from the Fox network, please explain the mentality of this, because I don't get it. I'll leave it at that.
Questionable.
I was about to say, if you can explain it, by all means, give it a shot, Matt.
It's questionable for sure.
As far as the series that we do cover that are off this weekend, Craftsman Truck Series, Formula E, NHRA, all off this weekend. By the way, IHRA still has yet to begin the season. Spoiler alert, that happens next week. All right.
And this Indycar course, I'll have my questions about it.
Oh, we're going to be talking about that.
I have my questions.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that coming up in the news portion as well. Let's take a break here. When we come back, we talked about the fact that F1 and then the FIA was talking about how the hostilities in Iran are going to or might affect things coming up on the schedule, not only for Formula One, but the World Endurance Challenge Series. So we'll get into that, and we'll talk about what happened to Oscar Piastri and why he didn't start last weekend.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
So we talked a little bit about this week. Welcome back into this edition of CRN. I'm Steve West in studio. Matt by phone, feeling a little bit under the weather, and I appreciate his concern for me when it came to that, because he said I want to make sure Steve doesn't get it, and I appreciate that. We're hoping, of course, that you do feel better, and you think you're looking right now at being back next week here in studio.
Yeah, as the old saying goes here in the South, good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, yeah.
Amen. Producer John, of course, on CRN Live on YouTube as usual, and keeps coming up with new pictures that we have submitted to him. I was just kind of watching the YouTube feed during the break there. He was showing a lot of the pictures of you and me when we did the Talladega driving experience a few years ago. That was some time. That was a good time.
Yeah, and I guess what you would say in my the way that suit was, looking like Jacques Villeneuve.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody was ever going to confuse me for him. All right, so we kind of talked about this last week. Formula One was talking about what they might need to do considering the hostilities in Iran, where the U.S. and Israel kind of led a coalition against the regime over there. And a little bit more on that. Sky Sports started reporting yesterday that the official word should come down by the end of the day Sunday, but the official word, they say, is going to be that they are going to cancel the races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Right now, this weekend, they're in China. Then they'll go to Japan. Then they were slated to go to Bahrain and then Saudi Arabia. It doesn't appear that the hostilities are going to be over by then. So keeping the safety of the teams, their employees, along with the fans, and, of course, the F1 and FIA employees, Sky Sports reports that they are more than likely to cancel the two events, and they don't have anything set aside for a replacement. So it means this year's schedule probably goes from 24 down to 22. I'm going to continue to say probably because we haven't gotten the official word. Sky Sports is usually good on this. They got a very good pulse of it. They are one of the main networks that covers Formula One, so I'm not doubting their reporting, don't get me wrong, but I'm still going to wait for the official report to come down before we say, okay, yes, we're officially at 22. But yes, if this does happen, there's no backup plan. There's no going to Portimao in Portugal, for example. These races just get wiped off the schedule, and what had been a 24 race schedule to begin the year, or when it was announced initially, now becomes 22.
Yeah, and just the only way you can describe that is just absolutely unfortunate. With all that going on, you need all that mess going on, and then you lose two pretty solid sports events in the Middle East because of it. Two, if not more, and you lose it because of it. It's just a bad deal overall. I wish there could be some form of replacement to have the 24 race schedule in full, but I can see it from the logistical standpoint of it and how far ahead they have to logistically plan everything. I can see why.
Yep. So that's the situation there. We're just waiting on the official word. That's all. I think it's just a matter of time. All right, so let's go back to last weekend in Australia, and why did Oscar Piastri, who we kind of thought he was going to have this chip on his shoulder, for lack of a better term, after what happened last year, and plus watching his teammate, Lando Norris, claim the title, you start to think, okay, now I've got the chance. I've got the car. I was battling him right up until the end for the championship. Now I should be able to do it, and then to turn around and do it and not even be able to start the race, even though you had a great qualifying effort in Australia. What happened? Well, Oscar Piastri rolled off pit lane, all the 22 cars coming off a pit lane to set up for the formation lap before the season opener. And on that setup lap, he goes through turn 4, kind of hits the curbing there, and at the same time was hitting the gas pedal, and his car spins out of control, runs into a barrier, and you see right now on CRN Live on YouTube kind of the aftermath of it, and the front end of that car is just messed up. It heavily damaged the nose. Basically, it knocked the front wing off, killed the nose of the car, wrecked the right front suspension as you're looking at it from the driver's seat. The Australian native said that it is the part of the reason is something that we were kind of looking at in the YouTube CRN Live on YouTube chat. These new engine regulations, in that the battery power is now about 50% of the overall power output. The internal combustion engine is the other 50%. Used to be the internal combustion engine was an overwhelming majority of the power output. I can't remember what the percentage was, but I want to say it was like 2/3 to 1/3 internal combustion engine to battery power. This year going 50-50. These drivers, even though they've had practice sessions in Spain, in Bahrain, and the 3 practice sessions on the qualifying run leading up to the Australian Grand Prix, they're still getting used to this setup, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but with just in my opinion, with just a simple formation lap, and that's what it is, a simple formation lap, he should not have been running the car that hard through the corner like that. Just glide. The term I would use, glide through there, just glide through, get back to the front stretch, get in your grid spot, and go.
Well, he didn't, and Piastri said afterward, quote, just obviously disappointed. A scenario like that just shouldn't happen. It's obviously very disappointing that it did. We had a couple of things going on. First part I want to stress is there's certainly a big element of it. That was me. Cold tires. I've used that exit curb every lap of the weekend, but I didn't have to. That kind of goes back to your point. Glide through it, worry about that during the race. He continued, quote, at the same time, I had about 100 kilowatts extra power I didn't expect. It's not insignificant. I think the difficult part to take is that everything was working normally. It's just a function of how the engines work with the rules. Obviously, he repeats himself, very disappointing. I don't really have many other words than that. Just very sorry for everyone that came out, wanted to support me. It's clearly not the way I wanted to start the year either, so I can only apologize. And of course, he was a favorite because he's an Australian native, which probably makes it worse.
It does, but it does. But looking at those words that he used and reading what he said and hearing what he said too, because I heard it as well.
Mm-hmm.
In the simple terms of it, the way I'm going to say it, and I'm going to put on my analyst hat here. Stop making excuses about the car. You messed up in the story.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, he does put, I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but he does put the pressure on himself when it comes to that. He understands, yeah, he's the one ultimately at fault, but then he starts talking about some of the other stuff. You know, so again, he's not taking all the blame for it, and I think you're right. In the end, we have to look at, you're the guy with the steering wheel in your hand and the go pedal under your right foot. Ultimately, it's on you.
Yeah, because at the same time, I had about 100 extra kilowatts of power. Okay, that would be like me saying, you know, as many laps as they turned in testing in Spain and Bahrain and everything, you knew what this car was going to do. You knew how this car was going to react. You knew, because McLaren is going to give you every single ounce of resources and every stitch of resources that you could possibly imagine, to where you're going to know what this car is going to do at what certain throttle points, braking points, etc. Turning left-hand turns, right-hand turns, of what angle of this and how technologically advanced these cars are. You're going to know. So at the end of the day, in as many laps as you had turned in practice and in qualifying up until that certain point, you knew what that car was going to do in that left-hander in turn 4 at Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But you chose to go through that corner at a blazing amount of speed on a formation lap on the curb on cold tires. That doesn't work. That would be like me saying that that would be like me saying I'm about to get back in a super late model that has got 900 horsepower, and I haven't had 900 horsepower under my left foot in 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not on my right foot in 9 years. So I'm going to go, wait a minute. I'm not going straight out of the race trim. I'm going to test and knock the rust back off everything and get used to it. So if I mess up, it's on me.
Okay. And this is the way that it should be for Piastri. Again, this is you. You realized what you did. You know, you came through there on cold tires. You hit the curbing. You're the one mashing the go pedal. Ultimately, it's on you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, let's dive into this a little bit more, because this is the new regulations for the year. It's not the most popular bit, but sooner or later, we're going to have to understand these are the new rules. And I think it's really much more of an example of, well, we just don't like change, because a whole lot of drivers are following in Max Verstappen's footsteps and criticizing these rules that affect the racers, how they race. You might remember Verstappen liked the new F1 cars to, quote, Formula E on steroids, which the guys over at Formula E loved. And trust me, they're kind of having a little bit of a kick out of this as well, because we'll get to the quotes on that here in a moment. Now you got defending champion Lando Norris saying that this Formula One car is not the kind of car that the drivers dreamed of when they were younger. Norris said, quote, "You're driving the power unit. You're not driving the car to the same limit. It's not like go and drive the car the quickest way possible. It's not how it works. It's a very different style of driving that's needed. This is basically forget everything you've ever done and reset." Fernando Alonso, the oldest driver on the circuit, said this, quote, "There are always curves where the driver had to be brave and push their limits. That doesn't exist anymore. You use Suzuka's S's, Japan, to charge the battery. Different challenge, still fun. You love racing, but I grew up in the other one. This is about risking it in the curves. I prefer that." Norris, when he was told of Alonso's comments, then asked if the driver's role has been diminished. He concluded, quote, "I don't think so. It's just been altered. I think quite a lot. The thing is that the driver can still make a big impact, can certainly have a big impact on driving the power unit in the correct way. It's just not what any of us have ever grown up doing. Probably not something any of us grew up wanting to do either, but it's the way it is now. George Russell has done a very good job at understanding all of these things, but he still deserves credit for optimizing the package he has and understanding these things potentially better than others." This is who's going to adjust to the new rules first. We can go back, 4 or 5 years now, whenever the Gen 7 car was introduced, and say the exact same thing. Who's going to adjust to the new rules quicker? Because whether you like them or not, these are the rules. If you want to race in the Cup Series under the Gen 7 rules or in Formula One under these new engine regulations, you now know the rules. And you now have to race under them. So either complain about it a lot or do what Max Verstappen has said that he's been thinking about doing for years and quit and take your ball and go home, or understand these are your new regulations. Suck it up, Buttercup. Get in the car and race.
I don't know if I want to keep my mouth shut on this one or just unload. Because I have never in the history of mankind heard so many crybabies, and that's what I'm going to say. So many crybabies fuss and gripe and complain about having to drive the power unit versus driving the car.
Right.
The last time I checked, the power unit is a part of the car.
Kind of always has been, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a part of it. You are a multi-million-dollar, pound, whatever nationality you live in and however currency you're paid in.
Euro,
I'm going
whatever.
to use it off of your terms.
Right.
You're paid multi-millions of dollars to live dreams and do things that, well, and I'm going to say it this way, that the majority of kids that are in this field now are doing, that a majority of other drivers that are around the world, with whatever discipline that you drive within, would trade places with you in the back of your eyelash. And you know, they would trade places with you. You bat your eyelashes, they'd trade places with you. Give me that McLaren uniform.
Sure. Or Red Bull or whatever.
Uniform.
Yeah.
A Red Bull.
Yeah.
Give me that uniform. I will drive that car, and I will be as happy as another saying here. Another saying. I'll be as happy as a donkey eating sawgrass.
There you go. Well, let me give you two things here. First of all, let me give you the quote of the Formula E co-founder, because he's had some fun with this. We kind of hinted to it just a couple of moments ago in the fact that they had a little fun with the whole idea of this being Formula E on steroids. Talking about Alberto Longo, and if you've never seen him before, we're about to show you a picture of him here on CRN Live on YouTube. Longo is taking a more serious turn now after these comments. And he says it's wrong for Formula One to be moving into his series territory too much further. In talking to media about it this week, Longo said, quote, "I think there's a very old saying in Spanish that says, let them talk. It's good to make noise always. So if you're, in the mouth of these people, it's because you're important, and definitely we feel like that. But the only thing that I can say is, and as I always say, I'm a big fan of Formula One. Definitely believe that they decided to go for certain regulations that are probably damaging their spectacle and their show a little bit. I think they're getting closer and closer to us. We don't have exclusivity, but we do have expertise already on that. And I think he's got a point in that they are seemingly edging a little bit further into that territory. And I wonder where the idea that Liberty Media, remember they're the commercial rights holders of this series, I wonder where the idea from Liberty Media about maybe going back to V8 power has gone, because that was all the talk last year, even though we knew these new engine regulations were about to come into effect. Now all of a sudden nobody's saying anything about, hey, we could go back to V8 power.
Yeah, that got quiet pretty quick.
And I think it's sad.
Yeah, it's very sad. But they need to get away from this V6 stuff. Go back to V8. Yeah, heck, for all I care, go back to a V12.
Go back to a V12. That would be the days, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would be outstanding.
I think it would, yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, man. It's
well,
there's overall,
mm-hmm.
there's too much complaining going on in motorsports about this, that, or the other. Simply put, sit your helmet on, sit your tail in the seat, latch the 5-point harness, shut up, and drive.
Well, and I'll bring a little pop culture into this, because this whole situation reminds me of what I heard Mark Hamill say to Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson directed episode 8 of what we would call the Star Wars trilogy of trilogies, the third one, right? According to reports, Mark Hamill got the script, showed up on set, looked at Ryan Johnson, and said, I fundamentally disagree with everything you've done in this script. And then said, now that I've said that, you're paying me a lot of money, I'm going to go out and do the best I can with it. So
Right.
Feel free to fundamentally disagree with every single thing that F1 and the FIA and Liberty Media and whoever else had a say in this have done with the car. Now, you're getting paid a whole lot of money to go sit in that car and drive it. Go do it.
Yeah. If somebody in F1 car that does not want to drive the car because they don't like how it does with power units or their MPUs or whatever, gladly give me a call, find me on social media, something, reach out. I have a perfectly good, only stamped one-time passport. I will get on a plane, and I will get on a plane in 2 hours, sick and all, and I will go to Shanghai, China, and I will drive somebody's car.
And I think it's probably a safe bet to say that if anybody is watching on this on CRN Live on YouTube or listening to it on our flagship radio station, that means you're a race fan, first and foremost. Yeah. I seriously doubt that anybody that is listening or watching us right now would disagree with you at all and would probably say, you know what, me too. If McLaren, Haas F1, Cadillac, Mercedes, whoever called me up and said, hey, so-and-so decided they don't want to race this anymore, would you like to take the seat? I think every single one of us would jump at that opportunity.
And then some.
All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 rolls on. You remember that kind of weird trick rear wing that we showed you from Ferrari a couple of weeks ago? I'm going to show it to you again.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
I'm so used to Matt being in the studio, I keep looking at the wrong button. So at least I got it fixed. Welcome into hour number 2 of the fine folks here at CRN. I'm Steve West. I'm the one in studio. Matt's by phone, feeling a little bit under the weather. Didn't want to spread it around. And producer John, obviously, on CRN Live on YouTube, as usual. And we appreciate that. All right. You might remember this. We showed you this a couple of weeks ago. It's that flip wing that Ferrari is using. And we're going to give you another picture of it, a couple of pictures of it here in just a moment. If you're watching on CRN Live on YouTube. This is that rear wing that Ferrari worked up in the offseason, then kind of surprised everybody when they debuted it in the second and final practice session in Bahrain, giving everybody very little time to be able to react to it. Now, this wing, instead of just popping up from an angled wing and that creates downforce into a flat position that allows the air to go through the wing, it does allow more speed, obviously. Ferrari instead creates this motorized wing, and what it does is it flips over, which does two things. First of all, it actually creates a larger gap. If you're on CRN Live on YouTube, you can see it at the bottom there, how it's actually a bit wider because of the way that the wing kind of is bent. So you get a little bit more air flowing through, but as it turns out, it also turns the wing upside down, which takes away even a little bit more of the downforce, which allows the car to gain a little bit, not really much, but a little bit more speed. Hasn't been tested extensively, so we don't know how much less downforce and how much more speed. Charles Leclerc has used one form of the rear wing. Lewis Hamilton actually used a different form. It's not known which one is going to be used in China, but both of these cars, both the Ferrari cars, are going to be using this wing for the first time in competition this weekend in China. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how much different this is. Okay, so if you're on CRN Live on YouTube, producer John found an older picture. Take a look at that bottom picture real quick, and now look at that one, and you can see the difference, how the wing is shaped and how it creates a different way of doing it. And again, I don't know what the overall ramifications are, but again, downforce is, to a certain extent, on a straightaway, Matt, is it not, kind of the enemy of speed?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay. So to be able to actually create, I'm not going to say lift, but to ease the downforce here should be beneficial to the guys at Ferrari, be it Hamilton or Leclerc, both of which we've already seen, based upon last night in the sprint race, have speed ready to go this weekend. They locked out row number 2. Now it's just a matter of seeing whether these cars are going to be good enough to be able to overtake the Mercedes twins, who seem to have gathered the way that these new rules, regardless of what you feel of them, feel like that they can get out there and actually be more than competitive, and who knows, maybe get around them. Producer John's working up a comparison that you're about to be able to see on screen, so you can see the massive difference between the two. But in the meantime, we've been waiting to see this put into practice. We're going to see it. And it's going to be very, very interesting to me to see exactly how this comes to fruition. Obviously, I'm going to have to wait for a replay, but yeah, I'll probably watch a little bit of it in replay mode sometime tomorrow afternoon as we air live on this Saturday.
Yeah, I would. Let me word it this way: the technical nerd in me from motorsports, on the motorsports side, the technical nerd in me would want to see numbers and graphics and stuff like that on telemetry to see what it does when it's open versus when it's closed.
Mm-hmm.
The downforce numbers, the drag numbers, the lift numbers, things like that.
Right.
That's what I would want to see, what it does on telemetry and data, to see how this thing works.
But this, to me, this is that prime example of that old racing axiom that we have said here on this show many, many times over the years. You don't read the rule book for what is in there. You read the rule book for what isn't. Obviously, there's no rule that states you can't do that with the rear wing, so they turned around and did it.
Correct.
Congratulations to Ferrari on the innovation. Let's see if it actually works in practice now. And one other note here in Formula One, the sale of the 24% stake in the Alpine F1 team is getting a little bit more interesting. Otro Capital currently has that 24% stake. They bought it, 3-4 years ago. Christian Horner, after he got let go by Red Bull last year, was considered the leading candidate to go and buy that 24% stake. And it would allow the former Red Bull team boss to get back into the series, obviously. Turns out he's not the only one interested. There's another very interested party in this. And that interested party happens to be the Mercedes F1 team. Huh? Yeah. Initially, it was thought that it was Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff that was interested in considering submitting a serious bid for that 24%. But apparently, motorsport.com says there's more to this story in that while Wolff, his name is on the bid here, this actually may be a bid by the Mercedes F1 team to get a stake in the Alpine F1 team. To exactly what end, we don't know. Might be a situation where ultimately maybe they become what Racing Bulls is now to Red Bull. Then again, maybe it's just more simple than that. If you think about the sale prices of sports franchises, pick a sports franchise, pick a league, doesn't matter. They're all increasing in value. Why? There's a limited number of them. There's only 32 NFL teams, for example. There's a set number of Major League Baseball teams, set number of NBA teams, set number of NHL teams, set number of Major League Soccer teams, set number of Premier League soccer teams. Again, pick the league, pick whatever it is. It doesn't matter. There's a set number of Cup Series teams, set number of IndyCar teams, a set number of F1 teams. And of all of those, the most exclusive club is Formula One at 11. Maybe this is just a simple situation where Mercedes said, we can get a 24% stake in an F1 team where it's already currently considered to be worth $3 billion, and that number's only going to go up. Why don't we take that and we have an investment? They don't care how it runs. They're looking at it in a monetary situation. Could it be that simple?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
We'll see. Time will tell. But in this case, it looks like we're about to get into a bidding war. Okay, let's have some fun with it. Yeah. Sit back, relax, and enjoy it. All right, let's turn our attention over to the Cup Series here as we're going through the show here. And God, I'm getting tired of talking about lawsuits, but the drama is big. We continue to wait to see what's going to happen in this case, ultimately between Joe Gibbs Racing and now former competition director Chris Gabehart, who's now at Spire Motorsports. Now, the court ruled, we talked about this on the show last week, that Gabehart can indeed work for Spire Motorsports as long as he is not in the same role that he was at Gibbs, and so far he's not. This has led Spire Motorsports co-founder Jeff Dickerson to now file Spire Motorsports' official response to the organization, from their organization to the court. In this, Dickerson asked the court to deny Joe Gibbs Racing's request for expedited discovery. He calls it, quote, unnecessary, premature, and seeks to circumvent, his words, the proper process. The request continues, quote, Joe Gibbs Racing should not be permitted to bypass these fundamental procedural protections simply because it's dissatisfied with the results of its own forensic examination. It's a little bit of a slap. Dickerson also noted he and Gabehart have known each other and been friends since 2009. Then he noted how he ended up working for Spire, going back to a trade between the two teams that was made that allowed Robert Cheddar Smith to go work for Joe Gibbs Racing despite having a non-compete clause in his Spire contract. He says the promise of a Gibbs employee being allowed to move to Spire at a later date or a monetary exchange in case that didn't happen. He says this, quote, in late June 2025, after Joe Gibbs Racing reassigned Mr. Gabehart as the crew chief of the number 54 car, I asked JGR whether it would be willing to release the prior crew chief for the 54 from his contract so that Spire could potentially hire him. A couple of months after that request was rejected. I also asked JGR whether it would be willing to release the car chief whom Mr. Smith replaced from his contract so that Spire could potentially hire him. JGR rejected both of those requests, and Dickerson added that Joe Gibbs Racing did not allow for that person to head over and return, also did not pay the $100,000 they agreed to in place of an employee coming over to Spire, so therefore they're in breach of a contract themselves. This is something, by the way, that Joe Gibbs Racing denies flatly, but that's another story. We'll have to deal with that in court. In relation to the revelation that Joe Gibbs Racing hired a private investigator to trail Gabehart, something that came out, I think we mentioned that last week, didn't we?
No, we didn't.
No? Okay. Maybe that came out early part of this week. I forget exactly when. I'm losing track of the timeline here. But in relation to that revelation, Dickerson said in the filing, quote, I was surprised, quite frankly, disturbed to learn that a competitor in our industry hired somebody to follow its former employee around. I cannot stress this enough. It's extraordinary for an organization in our business to hire a private investigator to allow any employee or follow any employee, let alone a former employee. And then he dropped what might be the ultimate hammer. Notes that Spire is aligned with Hendrick Motorsports and said, why would he seek information from Joe Gibbs Racing when he says, flatly, he's working with NASCAR's winningest team of all time?
Yeah. I mean, with that's just the whole entire deal with that private investigator is just crazy to me, because I saw something that came out about that private investigator situation to where the private investigator followed Gabehart to Europe somewhere just to I guess be nosy or whatever.
Maybe.
Followed him all the way to Europe, which was insane to me.
What are you hoping to find?
Yeah, that's my question. What are you trying to find in Europe?
Yeah, really. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's unnecessary drama. I can't think of another way to put it. I can't think of another way to put it. This is all unnecessary drama that NASCAR doesn't need in the wake of unnecessary drama from the NASCAR versus Front Row Motorsports in 2311 lawsuit that we already dealt with. This just adds on to the unnecessary. We've had a pretty decent start to the year. Truth be told, I have enjoyed the racing that I've seen at Daytona, save for the one segment where we had the three-way Toyota block. I enjoyed the racing immensely in Atlanta. I enjoy road course racing. I liked what I saw at COTA. I didn't love it, but I liked it. And Phoenix, I thought, was a fantastic race. We've had a great start to the racing season on the track. It's all this off-the-track Bravo Sierra that is detracting from this. It goes back to that situation with Formula One. These drivers seem so overly obsessed with the rules. Whether we disagree with them or agree with them is not the point. These drivers seem overly obsessed with complaining about the car and its new regulations that maybe we're overshadowing what could be good racing. Now, going on Australia, yeah, we saw more passing, which is unusual for Formula One, and I wouldn't mind seeing more of that. So maybe this has leveled the playing ground a little bit in Formula One. Let's just get back to the business of racing, can we?
Amen.
Let's hope so. Speaking of the business of racing, Alex Bowman missed last weekend in Phoenix Raceway. We talked about it on the show. It's because of vertigo. Now we know, how soon can he get back into the car? Turns out not this weekend. We'll tell you who's going to be getting into the 48 car and what the latest on Alex Bowman is. Plus, Jimmy Johnson's talking the future of Legacy Motor Club. Stick around.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John. Kind of teased something a little bit earlier on if you were on CRN Live on YouTube and the fact that we got a big announcement. Matt came up with an idea. Why wait until next week? It's an interesting point. So I'm just going to do a little business right here on the air and on CRN Live on YouTube. If producer John's good for it, we're going to do something we haven't done in a long time. An after the show, which would be on YouTube only?
Yes.
So if John's up for it, we'll do that. We'll wait and see what John's reaction is to that. Let's get back into the news, shall we? Alex Bowman. He missed last weekend's race at Phoenix Raceway because of vertigo diagnosis we talked about. Something he started to suffer when he was on the track at COTA caused him to have to get out of the car before the race ended. Mayat Snyder filled in, right? Still not cleared to return to racing. Hendrick Motorsports decided who's going to take over the number 48 this week in Las Vegas. And they have selected Junior Motorsports O'Reilly Auto Parts Series driver and 2024 Series champion Justin Allgaier. Allgaier, good choice. Won this race in the O'Reilly Auto Series last year at Vegas. Plenty of Cup experience under his belt as well. This is a good choice. First of all, let's talk about the Justin Allgaier choice. I don't know as this is long-term, but certainly for Vegas, this is a great choice.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Now, considering the fact that for the most part of the year now, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series matches up with the Cup Series, would it make sense to try and see if Allgaier would be willing to do it more, or do you continue kind of doing a rotation of drivers until Alex Bowman's cleared?
Ooh. If it was me, I would say just hang with Allgaier and let Allgaier ride with it until Bowman gets back. I think he'll be back quicker than later.
I would like to think so, but again, we're going through this process of trying to lock this down. I kind of thought, because we hadn't heard anything throughout the course of the week, so I kind of thought no news might be good news. But as it turned out, they weren't willing to clear him for Vegas. We don't know how long this is going to go. You know, and I get the point where NASCAR and their doctors would be concerned about this, because you've gone through this. I've gone through it to a lesser extent. And in looking at it, the last thing you want, especially at the speeds these guys are going, is a driver to be experiencing vertigo behind the wheel.
Yes, and then some, because the very first time that I experienced it, and it hit me when I was driving down Interstate 20 here in our home area at 70 miles an hour.
That's not good.
And I thought I was in a tornado. Let's say it that way. I was spinning. I had to lock my eyes for me to not get sick and all over myself in my vehicle. I had to lock my neck. I could not move my head. I could not move my eyes. I could not move anything. Because if I moved my eyes at least a little bit, I would get nauseated and sick.
Yeah.
That stuff is no joke.
Yeah. You don't want to be in that position. So, yeah, I get it. And, again, Hendrick Motorsports has said all the right things. They are behind Bowman all the way. Expect him to get back in the 48 before the end of the year. They've applied already for the waiver exemption, so that if not the 48, but if he is able to come back and make the chase, so used to saying playoffs, if he's able to, qualify for the chase, that he would be in it due to the medical waiver. Sit it out. Make sure you're 100%. That's the key for Alex Bowman right now. That's the most important thing. Being behind the wheel of the 48 car, Hendrick Motorsports will continue that run. That's not the problem. That is not a situation they've got to worry about. The situation they've got to worry about is his health. That's paramount.
for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
On to other stuff. Cup Series charters. Very expensive venture. Only going to get more expensive. Again, there's only 36 of them. There aren't many around that are just up for sale either. Jimmy Johnson, though, is promising that his team, Legacy Motor Club, is going to be a 3-car team on a full-time basis, and he says sooner rather than later. In fact, he's thinking next year, to be exact. Thursday of this week, he got on the morning drive on Sirius XM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel and talked about the fact that they right now have those 2 chartered cars. Johnson himself does drive a 3rd car on a part-time basis. At this time, obviously not chartered. He told the show hosts, quote, "Without question, we will have a 3rd car on the grid next year." Very excited about that. Our commitment to growth will be able to attract and recruit the right individuals to help come in, really grow the workforce for this 3rd car. All the benefits that come with running an additional car will help speed our process. Now, he didn't give any details about this. He did say for example, he didn't say who the driver might be. He didn't say whether this 3rd car is going to keep the number 84 that he is driving or use another number. As it is, the team is still seeking their first win as Legacy Motor Club or Legacy MC. Neither their full-time drivers are looking all that great right now, despite the fact that Eric Jones did get a top 10 finish last weekend at Phoenix. John Hunter Nemechek is 22nd in the standings. Eric Jones is 28th. And from what I gathered from this conversation as well, Jimmy Johnson says next year he will retire from racing after he tries one more time for the Daytona 500. So that means the 84 car technically becomes open after Daytona next year.
Right.
I don't know why you wouldn't keep the number 84. It means something to Jimmy Johnson because that's the win number that he's going for if he could claim a win at either San Diego or next year in the Daytona 500. So why don't you go ahead and keep the number? Does it make business sense to go ahead and commit to having a 3rd car without having a charter?
I'm pretty sure behind the scenes they've got a charter lined up to purchase already. They're just not announcing where it's coming from. I don't think you would say something like that if you don't have one lined up somehow, some way.
I don't know where he's getting it from. That's the question I've got.
Rick Ware.
Is Rick Ware going out of business?
I honestly feel like that Rick Ware is, because he's having a level of success there that he's not having anywhere else. I think Rick Ware is transitioning over to NHRA.
So effectively, he's going to start to kind of fold down things on the NASCAR side and just concentrate on that?
Personally, I think so.
Okay. It'd be interesting to see if that actually does come to fruition. All right, so here's the next lineup of things here. Garage 66, they are a part-time entry. They debuted a new sponsor at the fall race at Talladega last year in Auto Direct USA. We saw this car on the track last year when we were at the track. These guys, in case you don't know about them, they are a major exporter of vehicles from Canada into the United States. And that partnership apparently was fruitful enough for both sides. They decided to re-up for this year and expand the deal out a little bit. They're going to be on the 66 car twice this year. First, next weekend when NASCAR gets to Darlington and Timmy Hill gets in the car. And then they're also going to be back on the car when the Cup Series heads back to Talladega later next month. Driver to be named later. Could be Timmy Hill, could be somebody else. Garage 66 doesn't have a full-time driver because, again, they're not a full-time car. It's a good-looking car. We're looking at it right now on CRN Live on YouTube. And I like the fact that they've got a good sponsor because this means that Garage 66 isn't paying for this whole thing out of their pocket, which is not an inexpensive venture. But at the same point in time, what can we expect from Garage 66?
Not very much.
And I hate to say it because, you know, we here in the United States of America, we here in the world, truth be told, kind of like to root for the underdog in a lot of ways. But I think this is too much of a hill to climb for Garage 66.
No pun intended.
There you go. RFK Racing honored the late Greg Biffle, the longtime driver for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing before Brad Keselowski even drove in the Cup Series, much less before he joined the ownership side of it. They did the same at Daytona earlier this year. They took Biffle's style of the number 16 on his Cup car, and they used that number style on the sides of Keselowski's, Chris Buescher's, and Ryan Preece's car. And so did A.J. Allmendinger, by the way, who drives the 16 in the Cup Series. That look is going to reappear next weekend at Darlington. All the cars are going to sport the look similar to what Biffle drove during his time in the 16 car. They're going to do kind of their own throwback weekend. Even though the track isn't actually doing a formal throwback weekend in their race next weekend, they're certainly not going to stop any team that wants to from going through the process of, hey, if you want to do a throwback, go ahead and do it yourself. We're just not doing a formal one. RFK chose to do it for Greg Biffle, and I think it's a great move.
Yeah, it is. I mean, going with the design layout of the old 3M scheme that he had from, I think it was 2007, if I'm not mistaken, 2008.
Something like that.
Using that scheme, I think it's good, but with how you have the sponsors and how everything lays out, the one that's going to be the better looking one to me is going to be Ryan Preece's because of how the car scheme, how it lines up. Because Brad Keselowski's got Solomon Plumbing, which is green and black, and Chris Buescher's got Fifth Third Bank, which is blue and black and green.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ryan Preece has got, I think, something to do with the Kroger sponsorship.
Yeah, sorry I didn't get the picture to producer John to be able to show it, but that's not really the point. You know, the good thing is that the cars are kind of tossing back to an old look that Biffle used to run and just using different colors in the combination.
Yeah, but when you do see the picture of it and you do show it, and it comes out when we show it here, that the one that got it right on a Biffle tribute is Sam Hunt Racing.
Yeah,
you see that one?
Yeah, they did.
They got it right.
Yeah.
They got it right.
I saw that one too. We might try and show a few of those next weekend, by the way. One more note here, two more notes on the Cup Series, and then we'll take a break. Final one of the show. When the Cup Series heads to San Diego for the inaugural Anduril 250 on the Coronado Naval Air Base, each of the drivers in the race, and we've seen this, for example, in the Coca-Cola 600, where instead of having the driver's name at the top of the windshield, they'll have a selected service member who was either seriously injured or lost their lives in the line of duty. This time, each of the drivers is going to be paired up with a squadron, not necessarily based at Coronado. The reveal of the squadrons paired with which driver was actually hosted by former National Football League quarterback turned Amazon NFL commentator Ryan Fitzpatrick, who has dropped in on a couple of occasions on NASCAR coverage. He led an NFL-style draft to make the pairings. All chartered drivers were included, while at the same time, the non-chartered drivers who are already announced to be in the race were also in there.
Right.
They were assigned a driver and the squadron, and now the task for the drivers is to go visit said squadron and take part sometimes in their exercises, depending on the relative danger of said exercises. And I'm sure this is going to be a major part of the pre-race and maybe even portions of the race itself. And the reason why this was done by Amazon NFL commentator, this race happens during the 5-race set that Amazon Prime has the Cup Series. So that's the reason why it was done that way. It's going to be interesting to see how this pairing comes about, to me, because these drivers don't have a whole lot of time off.
Mm-hmm.
And to fit in going and visiting these squadrons, that means these drivers are going to be real busy trying to get that done before we head to San Diego for this race.
Yeah, they are. But another thing, when this race got announced, another thing that I said on this show and this platforms, our platforms, of what would possibly happen, or what could possibly happen, or what could go wrong, or lack of a better term,
mm-hmm.
if an active conflict was to arise, and we're on an active military base.
Mm-hmm.
Well, kids, we are within what's considered an active conflict.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, I don't think shows any signs of slowing down. So, if this thing escalates any higher, what does Coronado turn into? Does it
Interesting
get
question.
even more activity? Does it get more activity? Or what?
Yeah. It's an interesting question, and it's also, I found it interesting because of comments that I'll state this right up front. I don't believe it for a second. But at the same point in time, it is interesting to note that during this week, officials in Iran said they have the capability to hit the west coast of the United States of America. Now, again, do I believe that they have that capability? No, I don't. I think they're blowing smoke up everybody's rear quarters. They're just bloviating to bloviate, which is what you do. But at the same point in time, it is interesting to note that they would state that, and now we're talking about this situation where we have a race coming up on the West Coast in the wake of the FIA and Formula One, in all likelihood, saying, yeah, we're not going to take races to Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, where we know Iran has the capability to hit, and wouldn't they love to make a big splash by making a big attack on a racetrack in an F1 race?
Oh, that would be...
And that's why they're canceling
that would be bad if they did that.
Oh, I agree. It'd be bad
if they did that.
I agree it would be bad, but
that.
This is the kind of spectacle that Iran probably is hoping for.
Yeah, it would be bad for them.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, at that point in time, you want to talk about everybody being ticked at you. I mean, right now, they're ticking off their neighbors to the point where it's not ending. Anybody who had been an ally ain't an ally with Iran anymore. Because they've been attacked by Iran, because they just said, you know what? U.S. and Israel kind of combined. We're just going to attack everybody willy-nilly and be done with it. You've ticked off everybody in your region already. You want to make them matter? Go attack a Formula One race.
Yeah.
But, again,
yeah,
common sense is out the window. So we'll just say it that way.
Yep.
On a better note, on a much lighter note, congratulations out to Corey LaJoy and his wife, Kelly. They celebrated this week the birth of their fourth son. His name, Emmett Edward. He was born Tuesday of this week. He joins brothers Levi, Jensen, and Pierce, who were born in 2020, 2022, and 2024, respectively. Well, at least they're keeping everything consistent. Now, kids in 2020, 2022, 2024, and 2026. I got to ask, Corey, are you done? Just asking the question. Just asking the question. All right, when we come back, we talked about Justin Allgaier is going to be in the Cup Series number 48 car this weekend. Turns out, if you really, really like Justin Allgaier, you're going to get another chance to see him on television on the CW network. And I'm not just talking about the race. There's another way. Details on that coming up. Nice Motorsports making some moves here as well. And we've got plenty more to get to before we get this show wrapped up. And don't forget, we have an after-show coming up, too.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Final segment of today's show, talking about the O'Reilly Auto Parts series here. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John, and thank you for joining us. CW trading in on its affiliation with the O'Reilly Auto Parts series for one of its scripted shows. There's a show that they have called Wild Cards. They've announced that Justin Allgaier, the 2024 series champion that we just talked about last segment, is set to make a cameo appearance on an episode that's going to air March the 30th. Basic plot of the show: former car and artist teams up with a demoted cop, solve crimes as both of them seek to rebuild their reputation. Exactly how Justin Allgaier is going to be involved, not really sure yet. We just have to wait and see. Nice Motorsports made 2 announcements in 1 week. They noted that Connor Hall, noted short track racer, has joined the organization. He's going to be doing 2 things. First, short term. He's going to get a crack at the Rockingham Speedway Craftsman Truck Series race in the team's number 4 Chevrolet truck. Then he's making up words here. Then he's set to run a schedule that's going to be revealed a little bit later on. He has 1 start in the series. It was last year at Richmond. He brought the truck home in 10th, so not a bad start. Said noted short track racer. What do you know about Connor Hall?
He's very, very, very solid in late model.
Okay.
He drove for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
We've seen that. Josh Berry.
Yeah, he drove for him. Hey, it's pretty solid shot, pretty solid choice, and he's got a solid shot to do well.
Okay.
I think he'll be fine.
After that, he's going to be sticking with Nice Motorsports. He's set to oversee Nice Motorsports' new late model stock car program. They're going to use that as an organization, as a driver development arm. Hall is set to act as crew chief in select races through the season as well. You mentioned it. He's driven for Junior Motorsports, has several win in the Cars late model stock car series, for example. We're seeing this a lot more. A lot of these teams, whether they are whatever level, Cup, O'Reilly Auto Parts, Craftsman Truck Series, they're getting into ARCA Menard Series, they're getting into Wayland Modified Tour, they're getting into Cars Tour, late model stock car series ownership, in order to find new ways to develop drivers. Or am I looking at this the wrong way?
No, you're looking at it the right way because of how Cars Tour has developed into a very solid development program that they are people are looking at that avenue because like I said, of how solid of a program it is to develop. But not only is it cost ineffective too, it's not as costly as other ways of developing. It's somewhat inexpensive.
How soon, considering the fact that we are seeing the IHRA starting up their own little stock car series, which is kind of a late model thing itself, how soon before we start seeing NASCAR team ownership kind of getting over into that too?
I would say probably within 2 years.
I'd be shocked if it took that long.
Probably within that right there. And then, while we're on that late model subject right there, I know I'm maybe jumping a little bit ahead with IHRA, but IHRA released this week their payout for their payout scale for their late model series.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't catch that.
I'll say this.
Yeah, get that prepared. We're going to come up to IHRA talk here in a minute.
Yeah.
Couple of other notes here real quick for NASCAR. NASCAR officials made a slight change to the rules last night regarding stalls on pit road. Previously, teams pretty much had carte blanche when it came to their stall and how they cleaned it up, getting ready to do pit stops that weekend or between pit stops. Teams took advantage of that by using all kinds of things, including chemicals, in order to not only clean it, but try to ensure some grip. Well, that's changed. NASCAR says pit boxes can still be cleaned up, but you can only use hand tools and no chemicals will be allowed. Any type of cleaning of the stall that could damage the pit stall surface, or more importantly, the timing loops, or cause a discoloring of any of the painted lines, is now prohibited. Okay. Of all the things that I could think of that you could do wrong, this ain't one of them. I mean, it's up to the tracks. NASCAR ultimately pays for it, certainly, and SMI, depending on which track it is that owns it. But you really don't want a chemical that's going to harm the surface of the facility, because you certainly don't want to have to do a whole lot of patching or a full repave. I kind of see their point on that.
True. True. I do too, but with some of the stuff they use just to simply clean concrete, it doesn't hurt it too bad.
Yeah. One other note here, in that NASCAR's paired up with a group called Super.com in order to help fans save on their everyday purchases. This includes ways to save while you're at the track as well. Super.com is signed on as the official savings partner of NASCAR, and when you work through the site, you can save on tickets, for example, to the Craftsman Truck Series, O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. This can be activated on site at NASCAR-owned tracks. Work with NASCAR fan rewards. This could connect like 400,000 plus members of the NASCAR rewards program. Hospitality, all kinds of services, really, amongst the many ways to save. You might have seen it, and I don't know what, about the 3 seconds that number 51 car showed up on the track at Phoenix when it was on TV. I mean, with respect, that car doesn't end up on television a lot.
No.
But, happy that they got on the car number one, happy to see that they have gotten in there, and, hey, we're all about ways to save. All about ways to save. Indycar, very, very happy a few weeks ago to join in with President Donald Trump. This was about a month ago, and announce a late addition to the 2026 schedule, a street race in downtown Washington, D.C. This race is ultimately going to be called the Freedom 250. And with the stroke of his pen, the president effectively wished it into existence and tasked the U.S. Department of Transportation to figure out the details of the route that the race is going to take. And we've been very interested in this because, especially now, we go back to that whole Iran situation. Washington, D.C. has a little bit more security around it, right? Well, the downtown mall is something of a backdrop. If you look at it, the National Mall, if you're on CRN Live on YouTube, you can see that in big words. It's right in the middle of where this track is going to go. And this is a remarkably short track. It's a very short Formula E-like street course in that it is only 7 turns over 1.66 miles. From turn 1 to 2 is the longest straight, heads down Pennsylvania Avenue, turns left onto 9th Street, another left to go around the National Archives before turning right onto 7th Street. From there down to Independence Avenue, turn left, go through the area that holds the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum before working towards 3rd Avenue, turning left there, heading back up to Pennsylvania Avenue. Pit Road is going to be entered just before you would make the turn from 3rd onto Pennsylvania. Pit exit will be about 2/3 of the way down that street. Along 3rd Street, those watching on CRN Live on YouTube, you'll be able to see the Capitol building over there on the far right. The course will turn left off of Pennsylvania Avenue about a block or maybe just a little bit less shy of going in front of the White House. I didn't figure it was going to end up in front of the White House. You want to talk about a major security situation. So this doesn't surprise me. 1.66 miles, though, again, seems awfully short when you're calling the race the Freedom 250. That means quite a few laps going to be involved in this.
I seen something that was going to try to do it for like 125 laps.
So probably more of a 250-kilometer race as opposed to mile?
Probably, yeah, okay. Kilometers, what I'm thinking. But I have questions about this course. Very, very large amount of questions.
Okay. Let's give a couple here since we've got time. We might get into this more on the Cross Flags podcast.
Why would they put pit lane after turn 1 into turn 2? Why would they just not take the turns and shift them by 1 to the left and put turn 1 down at the end of Pennsylvania Avenue and put the start-finish line on Pennsylvania Avenue?
That's an interesting
It
question.
makes no sense, but the start-finish line is going to be on 3rd Street. And
it is an interesting question.
If you look at this right here and think about what I'm about to say here, picture out how I'm going to go. Turn 1, you're starting in Muscle Shoals. You're going to go down to Mobile. You're going to come across the Gulf Shores, come back up to Atmore, cut across over to Dothan, run your way back up to Heflin, and then turn back at Fort Payne.
I see where you're going with this. If you flip that picture 90 degrees counterclockwise, it's roughly the outline of the state of Alabama.
That's the state of Alabama outline.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that before you said that, but you're right. It is. We might dive into this a little bit more during Cross Flag. So, producer John, don't worry. We've got a limited amount of time. Well, he's going to go ahead and do this.
By this.
There's a certain extent that I am as well, but at the same time, I understand why they've got it in the basic area that they do. They wanted the National Mall in the middle of it. They wanted to have the ability to put the Capitol building and loosely the White House in the background as kind of backdrops. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I was thinking this was going to be a little bit longer course, kind of like what we're looking at this weekend as I go ahead and make the transition into where they're going to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. They practiced on the new course that'll make up the Java Arlington Grand Prix this weekend. They practiced on it yesterday. Now, in watching some of the in-car video from a couple of different cars, this course is never going to be confused with the Grade 1 F1 course. But for me, it's not as bumpy as, say, the Detroit Street course. That doesn't seem to bother the drivers. They are all pretty much in agreement. They like this course in Arlington, Texas. Scott McLaughlin was quick to point out after the first practice session his praise. He said this, quote, "Instantly my most favorite street circuit ever." Matt, you noted something about this, specifically the pit area, that you're kind of like the Washington, D.C. situation you're questioning?
This double-sided pit road has got me on the lines of there's going to be absolute pure chaos happen tomorrow.
Sure.
Because you're coming off of it's not a high-speed turn, but it's a decent speed turn, and you have a narrow opening with one little yellow marker that signifies pit road, and you got to time it and hit in there. Somebody is going to wreck there tomorrow.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well,
somebody's going to wreck there.
We'll see. It's going to be an interesting race to watch. Certainly an interesting course. Drivers, like I said, like it. Maybe it's just a matter of space trying to get that pit road in. Hopefully we'll have more of an explanation on it. One more note on IndyCar, and then we're going to skip down to the IHRA, producer John. IndyCar heads to Texas, obviously the inaugural Arlington Grand Prix. Texas A&M University, in addition, is celebrating their 150th anniversary this year, so the two are coming together. Otherwise, I wouldn't have mentioned the Aggies here. Meyer-Shank Racing has paired with the school. They have a special look on the number 66 for Felix Rosenquist. You can see it now on CRN Live on YouTube. It's also going to feature SiriusXM Satellite Radio, a longtime Meyer-Shank Racing partner, and their SEC radio channel. It's a pretty good-looking car overall. I have to admit, I've never had a problem with the colors of Texas A&M. I've just never been a big fan of them. But that's a good-looking car, and I think it's a great opportunity for them to say, hey, listen, happy anniversary, 150 years for Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about the IHRA real quick. First of all, the Pro Modified class has a title sponsor now. It is called Quartermax Racing Components. They're a leading maker of drag racing chassis, suspension systems, and other performance components going back to 1987. Now, the new name of this class is officially the Quartermax Outlaw Pro Modified Division. The company began and is still run by a former Pro Mod champion, Clyde Scott. Build it up into a major facility. It's 30,000 square feet, produces many of the things that a drag racer might need, from championship-winning chassis to carbon fiber components to save weight, heavy-duty four-link systems, and a whole lot more. I got to admit, I don't know a whole lot about the whole build of any drag racer at all. But when you can make a successful business out of that to the point where you're actually sponsoring an entire division, I'd say you're doing pretty well, and you make some pretty good stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that payout situation that you were talking about when it comes to the IHRA and that stock car series they're doing.
Yeah, their late model sportsman division, which is basically the equivalent of the Cars Tour class, they are paying out over $10,000 more in purse money at first place than Cars Tour do.
Whoa, that's big.
$25,000 to win. And anywhere from 21 to 36, you get paid at least $4,000 to start.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Good job for them.
Pro late model division is double.
Whoa.
Double the payout.
Hello.
Yeah.
We've said it. The IHRA.
They're going after this.
Yeah, the IHRA isn't playing around.
No, not at all.
All right. We teased it. We got a big announcement. For those of you that are just listening on the radio, we're certainly going to tell you guys about it next week. But for those who want to and who are currently on CRN Live on YouTube, give us a few minutes. And about 5 minutes from now, we're going to do an after the show just on CRN Live on YouTube. And we're going to make the announcement right here, right now. So feel free to check it out. Okay? And if you're listening on the radio later on, it'll be up there for you to be able to check out on CRN Live on YouTube. We thank you very much for checking us out. Cross flags on middle of the week. We'll be back with another big show right here next weekend.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM and W236CQ 95.1 FM. Addison, East Central Alabama's classic stations 95.1 The Mountain.
This James Fan weather is brought to you by